12, at about 8, and I come back with maybe 2, and then I see everyone using them, so I don't mind it.
Okay, we've gone live.
Right.
Deja vu.
Yeah.
Yes, we're right.
This council.
It smells, starting to smell familiar.
That's not good.
Okay, whenever we're ready.
Yeah, we just. Okay. Good evening, members. Welcome to this meeting of the Heritage Townscape Committee. I'm talking slowly, hoping that the chair might arrive. 10th of June, 2026. Chair's opening remarks. Well, first of all, apologies for me having to chair this meeting unexpectedly, so enjoy the rise.
Well done.
Any apologies for absences
Yes,
received?
we've had apologies from Councillor Morehouse, he's got a work commitment. Keith Haddon has a personal commitment. I haven't heard from Councillor Mallett that he wasn't coming.
Can I just make a point, a quick point of order? So I didn't know about this meeting either until it came up online on social media today when the council posted it. Can I just excuse me? Can I just ask that when we have these meeting agendas and stuff sent out, we can have them put in the calendars of our emails, because it normally comes up on our calendars when it comes up in the emails. If that's possible, please. Because I think that's one of the reasons why Councillor Mallett isn't here. And Mark Whitehouse he's turning up, but he's going to be late. He's got a DDC commitment.
If that's feasible and not
Yes,
too...
please. Because what happened last time, we had everything sent out within 6 months on the calendar. So, because me and Ricky had a discussion yesterday regarding when it was going to be.
Some people don't like it, but I can certainly do it, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gerald?
Okay, so moving on to
Sorry.
agenda item 3, declarations of interest. This is to receive any declarations of disposable pecuniary interest from members in respect of the business to be transacted on the agenda. Do we have any this evening? And if not, we'll move on. Yep. Okay. Agenda item 4, and it's attachment 4 in your pack, and that's minutes of the Heritage and Townscape Committee from Wednesday the 18th of March 2026. Does anybody have any matters that they would like to raise against those minutes? No? If not, I'm happy to propose that we accept them. Seconded by Councillor Black. Will we vote on those?
I'm abstaining because I wasn't in that meeting.
I'm abstaining because I wasn't there either.
I'm just initialing the minutes.
Does anybody else need anything?
Sorry, Councillor Carter.
There's nothing.
Now, one thing that I have noticed we haven't got on here is about electing a chair. Is there a reason for that?
There is on the agenda.
Oh, is there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
move to elect a chair.
That's not looking at
Yeah.
the right one.
21661.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not mine. There you go.
Is that again 2666?
Yeah. There was a problem because the agenda came out to ask,
I'm looking at the previous.
to ask us for comments,
I'm a bit.
and then this one came out.
You've got the wrong agenda up there.
No, not an earlier one. It's not wrong. It's just there we go.
Wrong for the day.
Yes, nowadays. If you're chairing, you could borrow mine, isn't it?
I'm okay. I think that's the only omission. So
Okay,
I'm
sure.
fine.
Ian, can you quickly forward that agenda over to me? Because I've got the older one. Half it's missing.
Right. Try to.
Okay. So could we? Councillor Mallett, I believe, is happy to still be the chair, so I'm happy to nominate him unless somebody else in the room is liking to put forward their name, and then if so, we'll have a vote against the 2 names, or 3 names.
Happy to second.
your proposal.
Okay.
I'm not putting my name forward. I'm far too busy.
Okay. Okay, so the only name we've got is Councillor Mallet, who happens to be absent. If you'd like to vote on that, you can always resign at the next meeting if you want to. Okay, so Councillor Mallet has moved
Yeah,
to be the
I've
chair.
got the old agenda, so I need to explain it in a second.
Only have more members to read.
Okay, moving
Send
on.
it, send it.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next agenda item, which is the actions, which are included in the packet attachment 5. There's only 2 open. The first one is committee discussed possibility of constructing a ramp on the key path through to the courtyard, and that is actually allocated to Councillor Mallet. So we're not going to be taking an update today in his absence, unless somebody else is directly involved in it.
Sorry, because I did add something with respect to that,
On this agenda, Mrs. George.
with respect to the ramp in Ainsley Court.
Okay.
I think I sent a note in it.
Yeah, I think it's on the agenda, Carol.
Is it a separate
Okay,
agenda
come on
item?
to
Is
that.
it? Okay, that's fine.
The planters.
No, it's separate. Okay. And then Councillor Ripley will establish costings for enclosing the bus shelter, but that's not until September, so we'll
I've done it.
Okay, do you want to disclose those now?
Yeah. Well,
I would suggest that we, a report that we
Okay.
bring to the next meeting.
okay,
Okay,
that's
because
fine.
we'll need to have a meaningful discussion around it,
Okay.
etc. Okay, so I'm happy to propose that we accept the action log. Does somebody have a second? Councillor Pennington, vote on that.
So we've got Ian's to send it to me.
Councillor Marie, happy
Yeah,
to?
yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Have you got some of these?
yeah, hands better, it's quicker.
Just,
So-
no, just opening the town clerk.
Agenda item 6, public participation, 20-minute sessions set aside for members of the public to make representations at the meeting in respect to the business on the agenda. Do we have any requests tonight?
I didn't think it was attached.
Okay. So moving on to agenda item 7, and this is members to receive a report on the ramp at Ainsley Court. Do we actually have a report from anybody in the room? That would have been Councillor Mallet. So at this point, if you want to feed in whatever.
Yeah. For the firstly, I am a wee bit concerned that the issue about the ramp has now been on your agenda for some 18 months or more. I thought I had understood that it was solved in as much as you were going to write a planning, to gain planning permission for it. At least that was the idea, that although DDC had said they didn't necessarily want one, they also said it might be wise to have one. So Councillor Mallet said he would put one in. It still isn't, as far as I know, he's obviously not here, but that planning permission hasn't gone in, therefore the ramp has not progressed in any way, shape or form. And we're back into the summer, and well, hopefully, and you're going to get visitors, and we've got disabled people and parents with buggies. And actually, we do need to find a way of crossing from the quay into the town one way or another. What's connected to that I wrote in about was the issue that when this was first proposed by Councillor Angerson, some 2 years ago maybe, 18 months, 2 years ago, we had the discussion, and we actually did the walk through the town that said from the quay through Ainsley Court via the ramp, through the roadway that we're not sure who it belongs to, but no, the managers of Ainsley Court don't seem to have a problem with it. And then there is a drop curb on that side of Strand Street that disabled people, people with wheelchairs could actually drop down there, go straight across the road, and I'll come back to that in a minute, and then up through 3 Kings Alley, right round into Milk Alley, and therefore access the town safely, and it's the only flat way they can do it. Now, to do all of that, the only requirement, apart from the ramp, would have been dropping the curb on the other side of the road, which is at the moment 2 car park spaces. And the reason I'm raising this now is because the proposal at that point was that those 2 car park spaces, they're obviously needed in the town, but the idea was that the 2 spaces that are in Breezy Corner, that are no longer required by the doctors, could actually become 2 car parking spaces, and they would replace the 2, albeit a bit further away, but they would replace the 2 that you could then put the other drop curb in. And I don't know where any of this is now gone. I don't know who's sort of leading disability and access and where this has gone, but I do know that you're looking at what you do about those 2 spaces by the doctors, and before it all happens, I'm just thinking, can we revisit the original idea?
So, with my recollection, it's been going on for longer than 2 years. It's been going on for a lot longer than that. So, it's the other thing is that when the disability active strategy was set up, it's before Councillor Anderson was a councillor, and she was part of the committee at the time. When she became a councillor, she became chair of the committee, obviously, and then pushed it. However, there was lots of loopholes and stuff, and she was getting very annoyed. That's why she resigned as the chair of Townscape Heritage, in my opinion. That is, not everybody else's. It was the disability access group was then folded into the Townscape Heritage Committee, which was picked up by the chair, which was Simon Mallet. So it's not been lost. I don't think it's just it's one of those things that it's taken its time. I do believe. But yes, I think we all agree that we're going to do it, and we agreed for it. But I just think it's just taking its time with the loopholes we have.
Councillor Carter?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, obviously there'd be a lot of legislation around moving the car parking spaces and things like that. That would have to go through Dover District Council. When I was up at Dover, we used to get requests for that, and it had to be processed, assessed and agreed and then voted on by the committee before it could be undertaken. And then of course the work had to be delegated as well to contractors. So as Councillor Marie has quite rightly said, it's not been lost, it's just there's been a lot of areas. Also there's been talks with Ainsley Court Management Committee, because obviously it was to find out about the rights of way and things like that, and all of these unfortunately take such a long time to organise. So as you say, I mean, we still haven't got clarity on the public right of way through there.
Sorry, can I come back on that?
So I prefer, because actually this is a well played out discussion. I don't want to extend the discussion tonight because Councillor Mallet is leading on this.
Right.
He needs to be in the room. He needs to report where he is with it. Because if not, we'll just go through exactly the same cycle next time. And I think we've all got lives that, you know, we value time. So I want to park that. But in terms of the 2 parking spaces that were the doctor's surgeries, they are going to be reinstated, and the District Council are doing that. But if you go back through the history of the talk about the ramp, I can see no direct statement in terms of a proposal and acceptance that would be progress. Doesn't mean to say it shouldn't be, but as soon as you start looking at spaces disappearing, there will be an impact assessment needed with residents being consulted. There will be cost, and I know the cost that has been assigned to this project has been very focused on a ramp. So if the breadth of what we want delivered is much bigger than that, that needs to be understood, and that might throw up some issues about deliverability. I'm just saying that because I don't believe Councillor Mallet has looked any further, and this is not based on conversations with him, so I'll be completely wrong, has looked any further than how he engages with Ainsley Court about getting a ramp installed.
Right. There are just 2 points, and I completely understand that, and Councillor Mallet, obviously, you know, he isn't here. So one is, do we actually have someone who is actually leading on access and disability?
No, this committee does. It's
So
part
the
of terms
whole
of reference.
so there isn't one person who's leading on
It's terms of reference.
it. Okay, so that.
Whether that's right or acceptable
No,
or
I'm
not.
not. But I'm just wondering, because that's the person maybe we could have spoken to.
Yeah.
In terms of the actual issue and the proposal originally came via an off-spin from the town team when Councillor Anderson was not a councillor, but a member of the town team, and she led the offshoot committee along with the then KCC councillor and one of the Dover district councillors. So she led that, and that was a proposal that had, I don't know how formal it got and where it went, but there certainly was, it was all minuted, and that was the whole idea. And if I can just add one other thing, the issue about not having drop curb on the other side, in fact, if you get people to get as far as the Ainsley Court side with a drop curb, I'm not sure where they're going to cross the road if there isn't a drop curb on the other side. So effectively it doesn't...
That's why we need a proper discussion with Councillor Mallet who's leading on it in the room, because actually the project scope is much wider than just
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Decision required. Well, I'm not sure we have got decisions to
I
make.
think if there is a decision required, I think it needs to be deferred
Deferred
to the next meeting.
meeting, I propose.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
Those in favour?
Could the town clerk ask two things? Firstly, the council Mallet to engage with.
Carol.
Just me that had brain blocks.
It's me that has senior moment.
I had a brain freeze here.
Been there too long.
I think that's right.
And secondly, to be prepared to come and have a full discussion about where we are with things and what happens next. Because as we mentioned, the potential of dropping curbs will involve cost, and I don't think that's been factored in. So it'd be good to hear the scope of what he's working to.
I do believe it's in the budget though, isn't it?
There is a, it's
3,000.
2,700.
Yeah, just over £2,000.
Yeah, it's not.
That's just
That's
phenomenal.
not going to pay for drop curbs.
Yes, no.
Okay.
House the round.
Oh, apologies.
There was the comment about who's responsible. I do recall, I think, that at a previous meeting, we nominated a certain number of councillors to be involved in, particularly following disability issues. And I will look back in a minute and see
Okay,
if I
that's
can
helpful.
trace that
Yes.
group, because I think I was on it.
That's very helpful. Good.
No,
Half
7
six.
o'clock.
No, half 6.
Good evening.
We finished, Simon.
So that about wraps it up then.
Leave the jobs that we're doing.
Did you wade through the car park?
Oh, no. Just can't.
So,
I'm a little bit
flustered.
flustered.
So just do a quick recap of where we got up to.
Oh, no.
So very quickly,
Didn't you elect somebody else?
we
Oh, no.
So you're the chair, but I'll carry on from this meeting because I think it would be unfair as you've just arrived.
All right.
We've just discussed the ramp at Ainsley Court, but it's very clear that the scope of that is broader than maybe you're working to, but we need to know that's the case. So what was agreed was at the next meeting we'll have a full discussion about where we are with it, but to link up with Carol before then, because she's got history around this in terms of some aspects, and so we can have a proper debate at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay? And relax.
Senior moment.
Moving on. Agenda item 9, attachment 9. This is a tree plan update.
So I finished
We missed something.
I missed something. Sorry, oh right, sorry. How could I miss Councillor Black's opportunity to tell us what's happening with tourism? Councillor Black.
It's not receiving it. Okay, yeah. Well, we haven't had a tourism forum meeting since the last Heritage Townscape. We have a tourism forum meeting on Wednesday. So that was there. We have 3 of us, that's Councillor Mallet, Councillor Ripley and myself, have developed a roll fold, I think it's called, Simon, tourist brochure on 2 sides, which we are now getting 2,000 copies printed. The point about this is really heavy duty market testing of this. I put a request in for 2 batches of 5,000 at this greatly reduced price of 4p per item, and actually some of it may well be at 3p per item, but we need to get some feedback from that. So it will be discussed at the tourism forum. Now the next thing is the second part of this thing is to discuss where do we want to go longer term with some tourist items. And at the meeting, the STC meeting we had at the middle of May, there were a few questions raised. Now, this was widely circulated to all the councillors who were there, but it hasn't been circulated to this group. I do suggest that this should be a matter that we discuss in greater detail at the next Heritage and Townscape meeting, which is really what the STC minute says. But really, for you to discuss in greater detail, what do you think a leaflet and brochure should cover? We're very clear about keeping it much tighter focus than the 24-page one we started out with, and then the reduced one that Councillor Mallett and Councillor Ripley delivered last year at 46p a copy, of cutting that down considerably. Second thing is, should Sandwich Town Council develop a map of the town, and I think Councillor Marie reminded us at the previous meeting there are at least 7 different maps.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, and we took a view that we'd have a very simplified map on the tourist brochure with just about 6 or 7 main streets mentioned. If people want more detail, we have the compass map, which many people find acceptable. As a former cartographer, it gives me the twitches, but hey, there we go. The thing was then asked, should STC have a map of the wider local area, was one of the questions. The difficulty you've got that you've got such vast space between the things like Richborough, if you want to bring in other places like the Coal Mining Museum and so on. So we have to have a discussion about that. But that's going to take quite a lot of careful editing to make sure you don't have a huge map, but vast areas of blank space on it. And then we were asked, should we have more emphasis upon a history of Sandwich? In a short brochure, that would certainly be very difficult. Whether we can develop a QR code using existing sources, we haven't explored that yet, but that might be something that we could explore. The QR code we've got on the tourism brochure relates directly to all of the notice boards that DDC put up recently. And when you scan the QR code, the map of Sandwich comes up with all of the locations where there is an information board. Click on the particular site and it brings up the whole information board, including photographs. We think that's a much better way of doing things nowadays, rather than a map somebody looks at for 2 hours and then chucks in the bin. We think it's a much better way. We will develop further QR codes, possibly a link with Whitecliffe's tourism site, rather than try to have our own. And the last thing that we discussed is, should there be an events thing? The town council has in the past had events listed on a website. It's a very difficult one to maintain, but that's perhaps something that this group should at least discuss, and whether we just retain using the Whitecliffe's events, or there is, and this is a bit controversial, I understand that, we've got a gentleman who has been doing a much more detailed events listing of the town and should be using that. Now, opinions are completely divided on that, so I'm not going to say any more. So really I suggest these are detailed discussions which we could have at the next Heritage and Townscape meeting. Happy to take any questions.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Right, are we resolving? We weren't asked to make a decision.
No, it's not.
That says the whole update.
Yeah, it's not even to notes, the update.
Right,
so
thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. So agenda item 9, and it's attachment 9, climate emergencies, review the report on the tree plan submitted at the last meeting. So I hope everybody's had an opportunity to read through this. I mean, it's somewhere 78 pages or somewhere around the 80-page mark. Can I first of all ask the town clerk to pass on thanks to our tree warden? I know in recent weeks or recent months there was a suggestion that the town, the tree warden, that there was an absence of their activity. I think this report demonstrates exactly what they've been up to. and there is some great information in this report, having read it myself, but in terms of focus, we're being asked to approve a number of things which are listed on page 17, but before we go on to those, can I just take some general comments on the report itself from anybody who wants to comment?
I think it's a very comprehensive report. I'm glad to see that we're actually got some proposals for the south side, which has been very bereft of trees in places like Laburnum Avenue and Birch Avenue. And I think it's better getting with them, because it goes into areas where we need more greenery, because otherwise we've just got estate after estate after estate. It's a pity you can't cover wider things than some of the new estates, but small things, and then I thought that it'd be great oaks from little acorns grow. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Yes.
Well, just briefly, I thought it was an excellent report, and just goes to show how much work she puts into this. The only thing that I had a query about was, where's Beers Yard?
Which yards?
Beers.
So Beers Yard, yeah, so it's Woodlandsborough Road. So as you go up to the train gates, Woodlandsborough train gates, just before it, there's a row of houses.
Yeah.
In between the middle of them, there's a
Oh, yeah,
roadway,
yes,
and
I
that's
know.
the old Beers. It used to be a haulage company, and there used to be trucks and stuff in there. That's
Scrap
Beers Yard.
yard now,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. It's,
Cars,
they're Sam's Leisure Park own it now.
Oh yes, okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I just want to say that it'd be nice to have Dover District Council on board with this report. I hope they can get sight of it as well. It has been noticed that Dover District Council, as Councillor Black said, in Sandwich South, Hazelwood Meadow had quite a large number of trees which they cut down. They said they would replant. We've never seen them, and there's been quite a number along the ancient walkway, Mill Wall, all sorts of places like that, and everywhere they've said they've replaced them, and unfortunately haven't. The steps that go down from Millwall Place down to the station, they put a couple of trees in there. They got vandalised, and I asked Dover District Council what they were doing, and they said, well, we're not going to bother to put any more trees in there. So we really do need Dover District Council on board to assist us with this. This is a fantastic report, and let's hope we can go forward, but we do need DDC's support on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I thought it was an excellent report as well. I just thought I might inform you, those of us who were at the Monks Wall meeting on Monday, the difficulties once you plant trees to keep them going, and it's been a very difficult year to do that, and it is important that if we start planting trees that there's somebody there to water them very, very often, the drier it gets.
Thank you. Your point.
That was exactly what I was
Oh,
going to
right.
say.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
No, though I can offer, as I did with Cowleys, 5 years ago, I think, when we had a drought, to actually go to take a trailer full of water and water as appropriate. But obviously, an official way should be looked at first.
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, can I just as a note with respect to DDC, we do know that when, as Sandwich and Bloom, when we were asking about trees, I'm going back a couple of years now,
Yeah.
but they were very reluctant. In fact, they said they would refuse to put trees in the grass verges along sort of St Bart's and all of those, because they put trees in, they don't really know what's underneath the grass verges. They then have to do excavation work to find out. It's the same along the Ash Road. They would then, if it was anywhere near electricity, water supply, that would be a no-go anyway. And then if they plant them, they're concerned about how they then get watered, and then what trees they plant, because of the roots that then go through the gardens, through the road, up, push up the roads, and push up the problems with foundations of houses. And that was their reply. So I'm just throwing that in as something that was said to us, and we were told not to do anything, basically.
Thank you. It's a very valid point. So, in terms of the actual report itself, on page 17, and we've been asked to agree to these in principle, nothing more than that today. So I would ask that we take them on block, but the only one that I've got a slight issue about, in the sense that it needs to be understood in more detail, is a confirmation of the maintenance responsibilities. There's talk about maintenance of the some aspects in terms of what's in the report, including the proposed establishment period and arrangements beyond this period. I think that needs further work in terms of understanding what the expectations are and who will do that. But on the other approvals that are sought in principle, are there any concerns with anybody about any of them? Because for me, they all seem sensible in terms of ones that we should adopt in principle. Yeah? Okay, so I'm happy to propose we accept all of the requested decisions in principle from the tree warden, save the last one, which we will need to get further information in terms of what the maintenance requirements might be, because it's not clear whether it's an STC responsibility she's expecting or somebody else's. So somebody have to second that?
Happy to second.
Yeah. Vote on that?
Yeah.
That's unanimous, thanks. What I will do is I will speak to the tree warden and agree with her a way of routing this into Dover District Council.
Really sad.
Apologies for that.
So that's even worse.
Didn't even think of that one. Okay.
While we're on climate emergency,
Yes.
as it's appropriate climate emergency, whether we should consider, as we're approaching to it, cool spaces.
Yes.
And we talk about warm spaces in the winter, and we are risking, I don't know if anybody has been reading about the El Nino event, which the potential 2 or 3 degrees above what we normally experience. As we were seen in May, it's the hottest May I believe we've ever had.
Yes.
Certainly with 30 degrees. Second hottest
Ever.
yeah.
Oh,
I think that's second hottest ever averaged over May, but the actual peak temperatures might be the hottest. But I stand corrected. Yeah. So if we start to see temperatures persistent, and from what I understand, a temperature of, a high temperature for a day is not an issue. Where people are subjected to high temperatures for an extended period, then you have the health effects. Yeah. And it's basically whether we should identify cool spaces that people who just want a break. But I mean, I can't think of anywhere in Sandwich which has air conditioning, which is actually cool.
So I did share with you some similar exercise that's been done elsewhere, so that might be a good starting point. We have got some cool spaces that, if they're open, that people can go to. But in terms of air conditioning, that was totally different.
I would like to, I'd like to suggest the churches.
Coolest place
So that was my point.
in town, when we're doing town tours, is St Clements.
Yeah,
It's big,
Yeah,
and it's
100%, and that is
My
open
house
during
is
the
the
day.
coolest place. My house is the coolest place. I had a hot water bottle today.
cold.
And St Mary's.
St Mary's.
Yes,
It's not as cold as St Clements, surprisingly.
Is it not?
All the churches.
All the
That's
churches
what I
are
said.
so that was-
here.
That was
Maybe age concern wants to.
Yeah, well, no, age concern would be a cool space as well. I don't even know, it's an old brewery, so it's actually, you try and heat it up in the winter's hard enough, so in getting cool in the summer's actually not that hard. It's cool in there at the moment, so we're part of the Warm Space Initiative anyway.
Yes.
So we know exactly what goes on with all of that, and we always advertise that to our clients and other people, obviously. But it'd be a cool space as well.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that, the thing that needs to be done is just making contact with those spaces that we think are cool and making sure that they're accepting of them being included in the list, and then we just have to publicise the list, and that gives the options to the individuals to go to those spaces.
Potentially through age concern.
Possible.
Mm-hmm.
But we all get hot as well, so.
Oh, yes.
But I can go to age concerns, yes, right, yeah. Carol,
Sorry,
so-
can I can I just go back a little bit, because we're talking about planting trees and finding and having trees.
Yeah.
Trees, if you're under the trees, you've got air and they're cool spaces, and we know from when COVID hit us, it was quite a hot summer, and in fact people were sitting under the trees in St Peter's Gardens, and that became an open space but cool enough for people to sit. So it could be that
It
some
doesn't have
of
to
the
be in
other
a
places
building.
apart from buildings
Yeah.
could be locations where you can sit and get some breeze.
Thank you. That's good. Okay, so Councillor Mallet, are you taking that forward and would
I'm happy to approach. Yeah, I think the St Mary's will be Siobhan.
Yes.
Notice.
St Peter's.
St Clement's would be Father Sebastian. Yeah.
Yes, no, I'm happy to approach that.
And if anyone's got any other suggestions of cool spaces, maybe drop
Yes.
Councillor
Yes.
Mallet an
The
email.
Jubilee Centre,
Yes.
that's something I'll take it to the trustee meeting.
Yes. Yes, because the Jubilee Centre though is,
Does have a,
does it have
Yeah.
aircon? Oh,
in certain
yes.
areas, yeah.
Called the big hall.
Okay.
Well, we've got a meeting on the 7th, so I'll bring it then
Yes,
to the
please.
trustee meeting.
So I think it's a good suggestion. I
Mm.
think it should be progress, and if we could have that listed as an action to report back on at the next meeting. Okay. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 10, planters on the forecourt. Carol, are you going to speak to this?
Well, I can speak, but I've sent on a very short report, which I think just covers it all. I don't really want to read through that again. The plans that went with it were just showing the fact that where the original planning permission was granted, and I understand that planning permission still stands, even though we've moved on some time.
Okay.
And but it's not the right place now, because if we put the planters, or if planters were to be put there, you would find that they would directly interfere with the market, especially where I think the guy with the clothing and that corner tends to have to go back to get everybody in.
Yep.
So it's not the ideal space, although those planters that were suggested there originally by planning were there to create a walkway, a safe walkway between the road and the museum.
Yeah.
And that was so that pedestrians felt safe walking along there. However, things have moved on. I know we've got to sell the forecourt and so on. So we came up with the idea of moving those to the map that I did send in, and I think actually this is the only clear one. Is here's where they would have been. We could put 3 approved ones, but just move them down slightly, or we could go for 4 and then put them back, as you can see, against the wall, so that they sit either side of those benches. They do not interfere with anything that goes on in the market, but it creates a nice view of that side of the Guildhall. Archers Low have got 4, they've put aside for me 4 pots for the minute, because there's no good having pots that don't match. We think they should be matching pots. They're very sturdy, they're very heavy. They would be weighed down, obviously, and earthed, so that they would not be able to actually just be lifted out. The idea was the trees that were suggested are very slender, silver birch trees, so that they would be kept short and trimmed, pollarded at the bottom, but kept so that they were quite wavy at the top. They would be lovely in the summer, and they would match the leaf from one side of the Guildhall to the trees on the other. It would at least bring that together. And in the winter, when the leaves come off, you've got the silvery coloured branches, which we would happily, instead of putting Christmas trees around, we could put lights around the trees, which would make it Christmassy. We would also put flowers, and I'm sorry your baskets aren't up at the moment. They should have been up last week. However, the Archers Low have got a rabbit infestation, and the lower baskets where they hang down were actually eaten. So they're being regrown, and they should be there next week. So that's just a side issue. But we could then match the colour of the flowers with something around the base, both in the winter and the summer, because they're deep enough just to put some colour in. And that was all. We have got the money to do it. We've obviously had money from the Georgina Maddox Fund. We've also had money from Kent Community Foundation. So we put those together. We have got enough to pay for it.
Thank you, Carol. Open up for comments.
Just to comment on silver birch, they grow tall very quickly.
So Archers Low said they will keep them following. We did, it was a query I had.
Yeah, because I've got silver birch and they're 8 years and they're about 20 foot high.
Yeah, right. We've asked, we went to that. It was just that they are slender and they can be easily come back.
Councillor Ripley?
I just want to say thank you to Carol and the other members of Sandwich Bloom. You've done a blooming good job in sorting this out. Blooming good job.
Can I just say, so yesterday I had the privilege of taking Sandwich Bloom members to a RHS Hyde Hall. I was driving through the town with my coats, and a lot of people are noticing the planters and the new stuff that's in the planters because they don't normally see it. So because they're hidden away, because they're quite high up where I was driving, they could see them all. They loved it. So that's good. Well done.
Thank you.
So I'd also like to thank you in terms of this. I think it's a great initiative. I think it's great. It's funded, which is brilliant. You touched on one aspect that I had a concern about, which is the planning. So we will need to make sure that whatever we do is acceptable, because the peace monuments, we were being told that if it stayed on the forecourt, we would have had to go through formal planning to get that agreed. So we need to make sure that we don't do it without making sure the DDC are accepting of it. I have my personal view in terms of the plants, because for me, because we've got them at home, they feel like home planters, but that's a personal view. I think silver birch is brilliant, so I'm very supportive of that. Planters, but that's a personal view.
I mean, we tried to get Sarah into the photograph to show where they are. I'm no photographer. So it was to see how high they were, and they are quite high, and they're quite big. The problem with the planters is the really tall and heavy ones are. We would be talking about £1,000 a
I know, that's the problem.
And we can't afford that.
No.
But I'm mindful of the fact that I think we should try to do something. If the Guildhall looks great when it's all full, but when it's empty, it is very sparse. And we can take a look. I can probably go and get a proper measurement, and we can put one down there.
Yeah, I think it'd be worse to visualise, because what I would hate to have is that they're just lost.
Yeah, I agree.
Were other options looked at? So, for example, we know that we have the black planters at the back, which DDC have procured, but I wouldn't want them with a DDC badge on them. But
and they're not. They aren't. You constantly have to manage them. They're not the nicest thing, and they don't. I personally don't think they would match the surroundings of the Guildhall. I mean, we looked at the aesthetics as well. And that lovely red brickwork that you have, that was what was the driver of the box.
Yeah. So if we could look at how they might look, that'd be helpful. Any other comments? Yes.
Just that I think this is a brilliant idea. I think it would really be lovely. I did, however, pass it on to the property manager, who's obviously dealing with day in, day out with the logistics of this sort of what goes on the forecourt and so on. And there's considerations that I hadn't thought about in terms of electrical access points and so on that I didn't know about. So he then submitted an ancillary report that he's marked on locations that he feels, there's obviously 5 locations that he feels that planters could go, and we're talking about four planters, but yes, he just wanted to give you some choice, but I haven't looked into it in too much detail, Mrs. George. I just did want the property manager to look at it, and he has recommended the locations on his report.
Right, is that?
That's the report,
Yes,
so there's
second
the two
report.
places there, and then obviously, yeah.
The places either side of the alleyway are not good places. We've tried things there before. They get, the balcony tips over when it pours with rain, it gets very windy, it's too shady. It's not an ideal place at all. And if you're going to put four together or to make an impact, you kind of need them down that side.
Yeah.
But obviously I'm having to talk to him.
So what I would ask is if the chair, not the temporary chair, but the real chair, if you have to oversee a conversation with yourself and with the property manager, to just make sure you get a consensus in terms of, because there's only 4, not 5, and also, are you happy to contact the district council regards to
I think Jill, our secretary, has already had already been in touch, but I will check that.
Yes,
She's
please.
actually on holiday at the minute, so
Okay.
I will check that. But I had it on authority from her that because there were, the planning commission was already in place, moving them is not necessarily an issue, but we'll check.
Yes, thank you. So subject to just those 2 actions, I'm happy to propose that we support the initiative, and thank you very much for coming for it. Councillor Marie seconded. If you'd like to vote on that. That's unanimous, thank you. Okay. You're right, Councillor Mallet?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And he's flying.
Agenda item 11, resilience plan. To receive a report on the proposed web page for the STC website. I think Councillor Mallet, you're going to talk to this? Or are you not?
No, I won't talk on that, apart from, I believe it's, I don't know whether it's gone online at all, because I
No, you
guess.
said you wanted to come to this committee for review.
Oh, sorry.
Have you not prepared?
No, I haven't prepared.
So let's have a look. Members are invited to review the text and link to the resilience page.
And the list is down below the bottom.
Yeah, and I've gone through that.
There's a
I've
couple,
seen those as well.
there's just a couple that I would think to add to it. So.
Yeah, a couple. Should we send comments directly to
I think so.
Yes, please.
yourself, Simon? Yeah. I think it's very useful.
Yeah, and the only all we would be asked to do is to invite to review the text and links to the resilience page. So it's nothing more than that in terms of tonight. So there's an action to follow on for anybody in terms of if they see any gaps, in terms of what to include and send that to council members. So I'd like to propose that we note the report seconded from Councillor Ripley. We vote on that. Thank you very much. Right, so moving on to agenda item 12, the A257 poster. And this was a poster that was handed in at inquiries. Doesn't relate to Sandwich, and we were being asked to display it. I'm just going to find it. Right, okay. So, any comments, first of all?
Yeah, so I drive up that road quite a few times to see what, and it's a link between Canterbury, Wingham, and ourselves. My opinion would be is as a neighbouring parish and stuff to keep people safe within that with our neighbouring parishes. I believe that we should support that and put it up. That's my opinion.
So I just wanted to say, I think that it's very, very important. There was a gentleman that owns the Market Farm Garden farm shop along that stretch who was just going about his business several years ago, and he got completely ploughed into, sat on a tractor, and he was in hospital for months and months and months after the accident. It is known as because it is a Roman road, it is very straight. A lot of people get up very high speeds. There's some really dodgy overtaking that there, and I think, as Councillor Maria has said, as a link road into Sandwich, the last thing we want is people hurtling through. So I can't see any harm in us supporting this.
Councillor Ripley.
I agree with the support, because whether it's in our immediate area or not, it may well be some of our people that Sandwich residents who might be involved in an accident there. So does that matter? support this.
Yes, thank you. I always had in mind that the people who look at this kind of thing wait for an accident to happen before they do anything. In this case, there has been an accident that happened, and they should do something more about it, in my view. I agree this is of serious concern to Sandwich. It's a major thoroughfare, and we need to make sure it's safe.
Okay.
Well, I'll go against the grain.
Yep.
I don't think we should be doing this because where to draw the line?
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be some, certainly we should never entertain any political ones, and this is not political, I'm not suggesting that. And I don't think we would entertain any political petitions. But I think the difficulty with this is, where do you stop? Ash levels, something about road access to Dover and being completely congested. EU entry and exit causing blockages all the way back. Now these are all things that happen in our area and do affect us. I would not be opposed to the council writing to the organisers to say that you have our support and being public that they have our support. But I do not believe we should be putting petitions through a council website. I'm sorry if people don't agree with that, but the difficulty will be drawing the line.
Yes, so I would go some way to agreeing with council back. I think the last thing we should be doing is taking any petitions that are sponsored by political representatives. This one isn't, because I have looked it up. So this group was formed in 2010. It's long been pressing KCC highways and local police for interventions. It's a coalition of parish councils, community associations and local representatives in Kent campaigning to improve road safety and traffic management along the A257 route between Canterbury and Sandwich. So we've got a poster. We can go to a vote on whether we want to display it, but it doesn't set a precedent for other requests, in my view. Councillor Marie.
Sorry, my opinion is, we all know the situation. It takes a death to deal with a road incident. It happened in Eastbury, on the Eastbury bypass, when they narrowed it down to one lane because there was a serious accident and a death there. My opinion is, if it keeps our residents safe from travelling to and from a certain place, and also don't forget, there's a big wildlife park there as well, where some of our residents go and visit, and are members of in that area as well. So I will propose, and I'm proposing, that we promote, we'll not promote it, but we show the poster out so people can vote for it. It's not political. We have a current petition at the moment that's running within the town, but it's separate. But it's still the same. It's about the principle of making the road safer for some of our residents.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm not sure where this political thing has come from. The people that are in this group, I know quite a few of them already. These are the people that are doing the speed watch in Staple and around the Staple villages. These are good meaning volunteers who are just trying to protect pedestrians and cyclists from 40-ton juggernaut lorries and such like that. You know, if this council isn't prepared to stand up and help a small volunteer group to protect pedestrians, then it's a very poor day.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's actually said this is a political. The point
Specifically
being made
said it isn't a political one.
Yeah.
So let's be clear about that.
Yeah. So in terms of what I've read out in relation to this, it is a coalition of various bodies, and I think we should display it without commentary. It's there for people to then investigate and decide whether they want to sign it. So I'm happy to second.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously it's not political, but if there are other things that do come in that a political parties that are supported or something within the local areas of Ash or Wingham or wherever, then by all means we come on the vote on that, and probably won't accept them because it's in my opinion it is promoting a political party to do something. But this isn't. This is purely a group of concerned residents that use that road all the time, and there's been accidents before, and one of them has been involved in. So
yeah. So we'll go to the vote on that.
Got 2 abstentions.
Thank you very much. So that's carried. carried. So moving on to agenda item 13, items for information only, matters for the September meeting. This is an opportunity for anybody in the room to flag anything out that they would like to cover at the next meeting. Councillor Wood.
Yeah, so obviously the big talking one that I want to speak about is obviously, it's been mentioned, this leads on to exactly what we're talking about. It's about the parking charges and the parking issues that we're having regarding the 3-hour time limit within the Guildhall. I want this committee. I know the mayor's been working closely with it. He put a post up a couple of days ago online to say what we're doing. However, I want this council, or this committee at least, will go to full council to say that we, not so much, if we don't want to support the petition, that's fine. I personally, in my opinion, I've signed it. I want it because it gets to 1,600 signatures. It goes to full council at DDC to be spoken about. But I do want this council to get behind something so we can start pushing to get that. Even the changes, the timings changed. It goes back to all day if you want to park there all day because of our tourism and our businesses. Because every single business I've spoken to support the petition, one, and also they want to see DDC change what they've now produced.
So, I have a view on this, so I'll take Councillor Pennington first.
Sorry. Yes, I think that from the views that I've been able to gather, that there is strong resistance to these proposals, both in principle and in the detail. It's in my memory that in Westgate years ago we found that proposals that were rejected because of strong public opposition have a habit of suddenly reappearing in a sort of low-key way, and I think we have to support the need in Sandwich for visitors and for people who work here to be able to park regularly, and I don't think these charges are intended to do that at all.
So,
Can I just say,
yes.
just very briefly, 3 friends came to visit me. We went for a meal this last week. They all wanted to go shopping afterwards, have a wander around. They looked at the clock, decided they couldn't because of the parking. They'd gone over the 3 hours, so all 3 of them left. 4 of them left without doing any shopping whatsoever, just simply because of the parking issues.
So in terms, I'll make
Sorry.
this. So in terms of the petition, I have a personal objection to the petition because it is political. It's sponsored by the Conservative Party.
That's correct.
And so I'll just tell, so I support and have been fighting unsuccessfully to get any changes, but we did get some changes at the start in terms of what was being implemented. So they simplified the charges was one thing. So the parking charge increase went through with scrutiny. It followed a consultation process. It had public discussion. It had committee consideration. It went to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee of DDC. And it had a democratic vote. Even if we don't agree with something, that's how it works. This started in early 2025. A petition is most successful when it happens in the forming of a policy. The decisions around this, the key players who were promoting the petition were involved in that, but at no stage was a petition put forward to the public to try and get it. So my personal view is that actually what's been presented now outwards really doesn't tell the story. And people have been asked to argue about something that was implemented on the 1st of April. Democracy doesn't work that way. Getting 1,600 petitioners, that's great, and it will be discussed again. Will Dover District Council, who are led by a certain party, overturn that? I think it's unlikely, but at least it'll have a debate. So what I've been doing in the background is I've again gone to the chair the leader of DDC, and I'm meeting with him in 2 weeks' time, and I'll be going through the evidence, because I think we're now at the stage where we need evidence to prove that it's having an impact. And I've got small pieces, another piece being mentioned tonight. That's the only way we can get some change, is actually demonstrating the impact it's having negatively on our town. Because this was a strategy, this is a strategy, this was phase one of a strategy that they're implementing. So they are driven by their strategy, be it right or wrong. And if they want to change it, it will be very difficult for them to change a strategy when it's only been live for 2 months, phase one, and there are 2 or 3 other parts to it. So for example, some of the village car parks are going to have charging brought in. That sounds unacceptable, and there's an opportunity to challenge on those. But what we've got here at the Guildhall car park is already been running now for 6 weeks. Their data, and we can argue about their data, was that actually only 10% of parkers in the car park stay above 2 hours. That's the average parking, only 10% above 3 hours. The average stay in the car park is 2 hours. That was their data. Now, if somebody can prove that their data is wrong, great, but I haven't got the ability to do that. I know Simon made some very valid points about possible lost revenue, but until we get that proven, and we can ask that. And I wrote to Kevin Mills at the start of this week, and to be fair to him, he came back straight away, and he said, we'll discuss it when we meet. I put in the fact that the things we've said before, but also some of the impacts, be it small at the moment, on the market stallholders. So there's a lot there happening in the background. Whether the petition will make any difference or not, all it will do is have a debate that happens already.
See, my biggest, I'm going to be concentrating, especially this weekend, because this weekend is the weekend, it's French weekend, so it's going to be busy, and the weather's supposed to be really lovely, so it's going to be busy. So I'm going to be doing my investigation work over the weekend, because no doubt people have overstayed their 3 hours, which they're going to do, which happens, and I can guarantee you, we never see them, but I'm sure they'll be in the car park giving tickets out, because this is a traffic ordinance, and that grinds my gears. It really, really does, and they're quite happy not to bother with that corner by the chip shop. Yet they can go and give someone a ticket for being a minute over a 3 hour time limit. That's my opinion. So I will be doing a bit more investigative work on that, and however, regarding the data about people staying here for 2 hours or 3 hours, we can't tell that now because it's changed, because they've changed to 3 hours.
Yes, so, but in terms of strategy, one of their inputs of data was about...
It'd be very interesting to see what happens this weekend regarding the weekend and the parking, and especially for the Guildhall, because Guildhall's going to be busy, so it'd be good to see what...
And it would be good to get some feedback from you before I meet with Kevin Mills.
Yeah, by all means, yeah.
So we do know from the 2025 support that we were trying to give the town that their data was inaccurate, to say the least. However, the 2 hours situation, I do think is wrong. The reason I'm saying it's wrong is because in this car park, up until they put the 3 hour slot in, you had an awful lot of people parking there who were local businesses who got permits, and you've got a lot of local people who have permits who were allowed to park there. So the other people coming in might well have been transient and just coming in for a couple of hours. What's happening now, as I understand it, is that these people have moved to Gaze and Salt's car park if they want long-term parking. That is actually restricted any parking venues for local people to park in, and therefore they're getting frustrated because they've got nowhere to park. So my query is their 2 hours, what was it actually based on? Because how many parking spaces did they actually have full that they based the 2 hour parking on? And how many car park spaces have we really got? And how many of those were full up with people who actually had the right and the right permits to park there all day? So if it was just a small number, then I think there is an issue there about the data that they've actually got.
So,
And then,
yeah.
sorry, Mr. Mayor, but we did prove this. I'm going back quite a long time when they closed the car park at the quay.
Yeah.
And we did our own analysis that was actually presented at that point to Roger Walton, who actually used it, because the businesses, it carried on because the weather was so bad, and the businesses suffered tremendously all through the Christmas period. And DDC based their assessment on what that car park on average had done, not what it did at the peak times when A, we have festivals, and B, when we have Christmas. So, you know, I don't necessarily trust their data. I think their data can be, anyone can produce a piece of data, whether it's accurate or not, is questionable. And I'd just like to throw
Whether
that
it's
in.
questionable or not, we can't determine that. But
Yeah, it was just something to add really, and it's not entirely relevant, but when I used to live in St Albans, they changed the whole road system and it was a disaster. So all the right processes have gone to that, they moved it all, you know, to avoid the centre, and they actually changed it back. And although, you know, things have been made by democratic decision, they can make mistakes. It doesn't mean when they're out, if we can evidence the impact, I think that is the route that we go down, because there are precedents where they do change, even though, I mean, imagine that, the whole council changed the whole road. It wasn't temporary, it was permanent. They actually had to change it back because there was such an uproar of the traffic jams and the impact.
Yeah.
So.
That is the same in Ashford.
and I think that's a valid, I think that's a valid point. I know on Home Day Seafront they brought in traffic calming and everything, and that impacted the town greatly, and there was a reversal of that. So I think it's, my personal view is, in terms of where we are now, anybody who wants to sign a petition, go and do it. You know, support, you know, that's your right to do so. But in terms of the council, we are progressing discussions with EDC. Whether they produce anything or not, time will tell. And any evidence that people have got, do give it to me, because I'm not seeing the lead for 2 weeks. And I will report into STC in terms of the outcomes of that meeting.
Can I just make a point, sorry, Mr. Mayor? And I appreciate that your online post that you done a couple of days ago, and it outlined everything. However, what it looks out there on the street is that the council are not doing anything about it. Sandwich Town Council as a whole are not getting, are not. It looks like they're burying their heads in the sand. They don't want to get involved in the issue that the town has regarding the parking and the parking fees increase and stuff like that. My personal opinion, and I stress it quite a lot, is that the council as a whole needs to make a statement or make some form of something to go to the town to say, look, we are working on it. We are looking at doing things instead of the petition runs. That's fine. However, we are doing our thing to try and see what we can do to try and change things or stop it.
I think it's a reasonable suggestion, and maybe that's what we can pick up at the next STC. Because
it looks like Sandwich Town Council at the moment are doing nothing, and the only thing is that it's a political petition that's going out. That's what it is.
I don't think there's much more I could say in terms of what we are doing, but yes, it's a valid point.
A related point, and I was going to raise it in relation to the agenda for next time, is relations with the business community in the town, which we haven't discussed for quite some time now. There were some moves made months and months ago to get this cooperation going, but I think we rather lost sight of it, and I think it would be good just to have it back on the agenda. But it kind of relates to what we've been talking about.
It's a bit nebulous, so do we have a view in terms of how we might, or are you saying we need to have a discussion about how we might do it as the next agenda?
Yes.
Okay, okay with that?
Yes, I think it's so parking and basically business relationships, yes. Chamber of Commerce, we could call it.
Could we perhaps put a Facebook post out saying that we are trying to gather evidence on the impact?
Yes, we can, but we should agree that collectively, and whether we can do that here now, because it's not on tonight's agenda. So we should do it next STC. I will bring a report around what we have been doing, so at least we've got that properly documented. So then we can all agree that that's what we're doing. We can also then agree that we support the request, sorry, not support, we object, which is what we have done all the way through.
Yeah.
We've got minutes, we've got formal motions.
Yeah.
I don't know, if somebody's interested in looking what the council does, they can find the evidence there. But if we need to make a more outward statement, we can do that.
No, thank you.
Just to add to that, a timeline, a simple timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got
Well, there'll be minutes. It'll be minutes and agreed minutes or agreed.
Well, I don't think we need to be particularly
No.
forensic,
No.
because there's a lot of conversations that I've exchanged texts with DDC cabinet members, etc. So I'm not going to start putting those on there.
No.
We have got a series of events.
The timeline of when we started talking about it, from when it was about the first.
So we contributed to the consultation objecting.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
Councillor Carter, I believe, went to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee to object. We've discussed it in at least 2 town council meetings where we've objected. So it goes on. And I've met with the leader on 2 occasions, and Councillor Mallet came with me where we had the parking cabinet member there as well. So there's a lot that we've done. Do you want to come back and see the date of next meeting?
No,
Thank you. Okay, so that's the business. The final item is next meeting of this committee is on the 9th of September 26. Meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.